They say that many of our fears are based in irrationality, things that could never happen. And I don't have many cruise phobias. I don't have many cruise fears, except maybe save one. I do have a palpable fear that I will get sick or injured on a cruise ship and that the medical staff on the ship will not be able to take care of my issue, and I'll be put off the cruise ship to be cared for by medical facilities in a foreign country, and that the cruise ship will leave me. Is that a rational fear, or is that not a rational fear? Well, I got two stories that would suggest that that may be a rational fear. Two stories of cruise passengers left in a foreign country, and they're not great stories. But yeah, left in a foreign land because of medical illness from a cruise ship. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to La Lido Loca. I am your host, Tony, your guide, here to talk you through everything going on in cruising, everything including getting stuck in a foreign land. And well, these stories, they have a twist that you may not anticipate because a lot of these stories follow the same kind of formula. These don't. Cruise news story number one, the story of a New Hampshire man, Gary Schreibner, who had a cardiac event on a cruise ship and subsequently was put off of that cruise ship for medical care in Curaçao. Now, Schreibner's wife, Sharon, is a nurse, and she describes the medical treatment that her husband was getting in Curaçao as not as good as what he has gotten previously in the United States. And so, not surprisingly, she was very adamant about getting her husband removed from the hospital in Curaçao and getting him evacuated to the United States for a different level of medical treatment. This is where the challenges kicked in. The hospital there in Curaçao informed the Schreibners that they had a $10,000 medical bill that would need to be paid before he could leave. And they also needed some sort of medical evacuation plan to get him from the hospital in Curaçao to a hospital in the United States. And while this is normally the part of the story where I tell you they didn't have travel insurance and that's why it was a problem, well, that's the big twist. They did have travel insurance, and their travel insurance was through Allianz. That is a travel insurance company I have mentioned before. That is who we have our annual travel insurance plan with. But I have said I've never used them for filing a claim. I'm not really sure how the process works. And while the Schreibner said that when they engaged Allianz, the answers were not clear. They were unsure how Allianz was going to pay their hospital bill, and they were unsure whether or not Allianz was going to medically evacuate Mr. Schreibner back to the United States, because the messages that they were getting from Allianz didn't seem like they were going to. This, if I can paraphrase what she was saying. Now, that was the story when I came across it yesterday, but since then, there has been a development. A news station in Boston reached out to Allianz with the concern of the Schreibners, and apparently this extra level of attention has gotten some extra information. The good resolution is that the wheels seem to be in motion and that Mr. Schreibner will soon be flown home. When Allianz was pressed about this idea of the uncertainty about paying the medical bill and the uncertainty about how the medical evacuation works, they said this is a statement they gave to the news channel. "We empathize with families who want their loved ones to get the best possible care, and we work as quickly as possible to move our customers to appropriate facilities when medically necessary. In each case, we must first determine that the customer is medically able to be transported and that there is a bed available in an appropriate facility. These steps take time. We also often then need to transport a medical team member to the patient's location to accompany them. I can confirm that Mr. Schreibner's healthcare provider in Curaçao has received a payment guarantee, and we are currently waiting for them to accept that guarantee. A nurse is currently on her way to Curaçao and will return with Mr. Schreibner to ensure he has a safe trip home. I'm glad that we could be of assistance to Mr. Schreibner and his family and wish him a speedy recovery." So in that official statement, there is a lot going on there. They are saying that they are paying the medical bill, that they're sending a medical professional to facilitate the medical transport back to the United States. And the big thing they're saying is that the process takes time. Of course, I don't know the Schreibners, but I assume they are a lot like me. I pay for the medical insurance. I assume that it's going to be instantaneous, whammo blammo. I need med evac. It's going to happen right away. I guess the big takeaway from this story, as people who purchase travel insurance, which I believe everybody should, do not travel without travel insurance. I feel like that's the biggest mistake that cruisers and travelers could make. Don't risk it for the biscuit. Nothing's a problem until it's a problem. Fortunately, these people had travel insurance and it was still a challenge for them to get home. The big takeaway is it does seem like this takes time. I feel like this has only been a couple days of taking time, but this takes time. And so I think that's the big takeaway. I'm glad Mr. Schreibner's okay, that he's going to get home okay. And I'm actually glad that this story exists so that we as cruisers, not understanding what the insurance process is like, at least we have some insight into that. And so, yeah. But yeah, it's scary. You got the insurance and you're still wondering how you're going to get home from Curaçao. And look, if that story wasn't enough to stoke your fears of getting sick on a cruise ship, I've got another one. This is happening almost at exactly the same time. We have a pensioner. I think that's a retiree. We have a retiree in the UK that's on his dream cruise, 100 days on a P&O cruise ship, who gets sick. This gentleman, Christopher Capel, is visiting a butterfly farm in the Philippines, and all of a sudden he starts feeling unwell. He goes back to the cruise ship and he's feeling unwell. They evaluate him on the cruise ship and they say, look, you need to go back onto land. We're going to send you to a hospital in the Philippines and they need to check you out there. And so Mr. Capel goes to the hospital in the Philippines. They check him out. It seems like he has heat stroke. That's what he's treated for. They evaluate him for heat stroke. They give him some antibiotics. And as he's starting to feel better, he has the realization that, well, the cruise ship has left him there at that hospital in the Philippines. And to him, they've seemingly left him there at that hospital in the Philippines without much information as to what to do next. And then compounding that issue, not only did the cruise ship leave him, they left with his insulin treatment. He's a diabetic, and he had a diabetic coma while he was sitting there in the hospital in the Philippines being treated for heat stroke. Now, he recovers from the brief diabetic coma. He wakes up and he's like, well, I'm pretty good. I'm over the heat stroke. My diabetes is stabilized. At what point do I get back on the cruise ship? Well, he has zero information regarding that. He finally is able to reach out to his niece in the UK, and the niece starts pinging the cruise line, P&O, and you thought there was going to be no insurance company? No, there's an insurance company in this one. She starts pinging P&O and Nationwide, the travel insurance company, to find out how they're going to get her uncle back onto the cruise ship. And apparently she doesn't get anywhere because Mr. Capel stays in the hospital for 12 days, seemingly with no symptoms. He said he's basically fine. He stays in the hospital 12 days until he finally checks himself out and goes to a hotel in the Philippines, all while trying to understand what's going on between the insurance company and the cruise line and how will he get back onto the cruise ship. Nationwide, for their part, tells the niece that they were not notified that he was off of the cruise ship, but she says that's really the only correspondence she's had with them. And then through this persistent reaching out to P&O, they have gotten some sort of resolution from P&O. P&O in a statement says, we are sorry that this has happened to this guest. Having taken advice, we have advised that due to his critical medical needs, it is not feasible for him to return to the UK by ship. So our customer care team has been in constant liaison with the guest and his insurance team to find an acceptable and safe alternative solution, as his physical health and mental well-being is the priority in this case. So it sounds like P&O and the insurance company are now fully engaged. And another twist of this story is Mr. Capel has a fear of flying. So he does not want to fly home. He really wants to go home by ship. That's turning out not to be possible. And so the next course of action they've decided to take is to have a medical team come and drug him, kind of like B.A. Baracus style from the A-Team. They're going to come drug him so that they can put him on a plane and get him home while he is sedated. What a story. And as always, what can we learn from this story? I think my big takeaway for this is I'm an older adult. I feel like if I'm in the middle of a situation, I can get it handled. I can get things taken care of. I do put down an emergency contact. That's what we're required to do when we go cruising. But I know that I've never properly prepped my emergency contact for what to do in case of an emergency. I wonder how many of us are like that out there. You have your emergency contact, but did you ever say, here's the list of phone numbers. Here's how to contact my insurance. Here's how to contact the cruise line. Here's what you should do. Here's a local news facility you should contact if there's challenges, that kind of thing. I've never done that. That seems like a lot of work to, make that happen, but it seems like that would be a good plan to have in place in an event like this. I throw it out there as a cautionary tale. What do you guys do with your emergency contact? Are you sitting there saying, well, I've got the insurance, everything's going to be copacetic, it's going to be easy peasy? It doesn't sound like in either one of these cases, the insurance was easy peasy. Sounds like it's a bit of a process. So anybody out there had these kind of struggles? Anybody out there going the extra mile with your emergency contact? What do you do when it comes to cruising? Leave a comment below. We did have a circumstance where Jenny B got hurt on a cruise ship and we had to go to the medical facility. I chronicled that in this video here. Make sure you check that out next. This is Tony for La Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.